Welcome to the debate. Our source material today really dives deep into the phenomenon of Christmas in the U.S. And it asserts that it is, generally accepted as the most important holiday. But what really defines that importance? The text doesn't just mention the holiday, it describes this extensive, almost inescapable Christmas culture that blankets a whole season.
And that observation, I think, creates the central tension here, right? The material provides so much evidence for both the holidays, sprawling cultural display, and its fundamental underlying purpose. The importance itself isn't really in dispute, but the source of that gravitational pull is what we really have to analyze.
Absolutely. So, we're asking, does the significance of Christmas in the U.S. primarily come from the, let's say, the pervasiveness of its unique month-long cultural system, or is its importance fundamentally anchored in its core functions, namely its religious origin and, of course, its dedicated family observance?
I come at it from a different way. I'm going to argue that the essential religious and functional elements are the true, enduring source of Christmas's importance. And this cultural season we all see is simply a massive amplifier, a mechanism to enhance those already existing core mandates.
And I'll be arguing that the systematic, pervasive cultural ecosystem, what the material calls the Christmas season, is actually the primary driver and, frankly, the strongest evidence of its unrivaled status. The sheer mechanism of the culture is what makes it matter most to American society today.
I can see why you'd think that, but let me offer you a different perspective on that mechanism.
My position is really built on two things: scale and singularity. Christmas's importance is demonstrated by its successful creation of a comprehensive, unique cultural environment that genuinely dominates an entire month of life. The source explicitly describes this as a whole season that kicks off right after Thanksgiving, lasting all through December, where everything feels like Christmas and the season is in full swing. I mean, no other holiday consumes the calendar and our collective consciousness quite like this.
Right. And I don't dispute the visibility of the culture, but I think visibility is often confused with substance. While the culture is pervasive, the reason Christmas maintains its title as the most important holiday lies in its fundamental function, which is, it's rooted in religion and family gathering. The source points directly to the religious aspect as being at the heart of Christmas. It exists to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, which is why Christians really value it above all else. That's the engine, not the paint job.
But relying solely on its historical origin ignores the current societal reality, doesn't it? The cultural system doesn't just exist to frame the holiday, it actively defines it, and it does that primarily through these unique sensory components that saturate the public sphere for weeks. We're talking about things like candy cane lean neighborhoods, where the civic commitment is so total that areas are literally visually renamed by light displays. Then you have the audio aspect, a whole genre of Christmas music playing, and I quote, everywhere you turn. This unique, inescapable cultural scaffolding proves that society has agreed to dedicate an entire quadrant of its annual life just to this theme.
That's a compelling argument, but have you considered that all those elaborate cultural trappings ultimately serve the core function? The material really emphasizes that this is a really big family holiday, and it notes it's on another level compared even to Thanksgiving. The food, the eggnog, the whole atmosphere, all these elements are deployed to facilitate the highest order of religious observance and social connection. I mean, if we suddenly remove that foundational purpose, if it stopped being the crucial time for family convergence and ritual, would those light displays and that music genre survive purely on their own merit? I really think the culture would quickly dissolve without that functional purpose underneath it.
And that brings us directly to our first point: the true nature of pervasiveness, and whether it's just, as you suggest, wrapping paper, or if it's the very structure itself. I would argue that the cultural pervasiveness is the metric of importance because it compels the creation of wholly unique societal practices. I mean, just look at the evidence the source provides that goes beyond general ambiance. We are talking about dedicated genres of music and movies created solely for this season, a commercial and artistic output dedicated to this theme that is completely unmatched.
But every major celebration spawns dedicated art and media.
That speaks to its popularity, sure, but not necessarily its essential significance.
It speaks to its unique societal weight. Consider the specific tradition of Christmas cards sent with family pictures and updates. The source points out this is a really big thing here in the US, but not a big thing in other countries. Now, why does this unique, personalized, annual societal record-keeping exist? It points to a deep-seated cultural mandate. The scale of societal dedication required to invent and maintain an entirely new cultural practice over 4 weeks proves its unique power far more than the singular act of religious observance that happens on one day. The mechanism, I think, is more powerful than the moment.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that the mechanism is the message. I think you're confusing cultural complexity with essential purpose. While the culture is sprawling, the core domestic function, family gathering and eating, is fundamentally shared with Thanksgiving. What distinguishes Christmas functionally, according to the text, is the emphasis on the romantic image. Being inside, warm, by a fireplace, hoping for a white Christmas. This suggests the holiday's enduring importance lies not in the public phenomenon, all the lights outside, but in the intimate domestic experience and coziness it provides. The culture's sole purpose is just to frame and romanticize that internal functional ideal.
I have to disagree with the characterization of this sprawling cultural enterprise as mere romantic framing. It is the culture itself that makes the whole month feel intrinsically different, which moves us to the specificity of tradition and duration. If the importance rested solely on that domestic function, why the non-negotiable societal commitment to the duration? The season officially begins right after Thanksgiving and stays in full swing through all of December. Society has agreed to devote an entire month, not a weekend, not a single day, to preparation and atmospheric saturation.
I agree the duration is impressive, but you're confusing preparation for importance. We spend weeks, sometimes months, preparing for a wedding, but the importance still centers entirely on that one ceremonial day. The preparation phase is necessary, of course, but it is subordinate to the peak event.
But it's more than preparation. It's an immersive environment. The intensity of this extended period is what elevates Christmas above all others. Even specific consumables like eggnog and all the holiday flavors are deployed for this entire extended period. If this duration was merely secondary, why do people report this overwhelming Christmas cheer where they are actively encouraged to act differently, kinder, more generous for a whole month? That pervasive behavioral shift, driven by the culture, is the most powerful metric of its importance.
That behavioral shift, I would argue, is driven by the anticipation of the functional peak. Which brings us to point 2, the day versus the season. Despite the month-long cultural buildup, the source confirms that the significance culminates fundamentally on December 25th, Christmas Day, which is explicitly called the most important day.
But that statement is meaningless without the 30 days of buildup that preceded.
No, it's not meaningless. It highlights the focus of the ritual, the ultimate importance, the absolute high point of this shared American ritual hinges entirely on the traditions of that single morning, specifically children waking up early to open presents. This is a sharp, functional peak focused on family exchange and ritual. The source clarifies that the U.S. approach contrasts sharply with other countries where December 24th is the focus for the main observances. Here, people probably go to bed at a normal time on Christmas Eve. This strongly suggests that U.S. Christmas importance hinges on a focused, specific, early morning family-centric ritual on the 25th, a functional mandate, not on the cultural marathon of the preceding weeks. The season sets the mood, the 25th provides the meaning.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning because it utterly fails to account for the single most compelling piece of evidence that the cultural momentum is the true driver of importance, the non-religious population. If the foundational purpose, that 25th morning ritual rooted in faith and dedicated family time, was the sole source of importance, the holiday status would wane considerably for those outside the faith.
That's a fair challenge. The universal adoption certainly complicates the religious argument.
It does more than complicate it. It overturns it. The source states clearly that even if you're not religious, the holiday is probably still the most important one throughout the year because it has become a holiday that most people celebrate. This confirms the success and the power of the secular, pervasive Christmas culture to transcend its religious roots and integrate itself as the single most significant social and cultural anchor in general American society. The cultural momentum has developed its own gravitational field, completely separate from the originating celestial body.
That is a very compelling argument, but have you considered that the fact that the holiday is celebrated widely does not automatically negate the strength of its origin? The holiday is named CHRISTMAS. Its foundational structure is inherently religious, and the secular elements, the cheer, the gifts, the family time, have simply been successfully layered onto that existing and incredibly robust framework. The pervasive culture functions as a powerful shared social custom, yes, but the core reason that custom was strong enough to be adopted universally remains the initial religious significance that the text highlights as being at the heart of Christmas. The structure has just proved so strong that it can hold both the secular and the sacred.
If the importance was truly anchored in that religious heart, it just wouldn't maintain its status as most important for the significant portion of the population that is non-religious. We spend December talking about Santa and elves and consumer goods, not necessarily scripture. The importance is sustained by the sheer ubiquity of the cultural atmosphere, the music, the films, the lights, which creates a gravitational pull that nobody can truly escape for a month. That cultural dominance is the primary engine of its modern universal status.
I guess I just come at it from a different way. I see the enduring importance stemming from the fact that it is the ultimate expression of core human needs, reverence, ritual, and family cohesion, which the culture then facilitates. Even without the faith, when we celebrate Christmas, we are participating in the highest order of dedicated family observance that the U.S. calendar has to offer, particularly focused on that unique, high-value ritual of the 25th morning. The cultural season serves this profound need for structure and intimate connection.
So ultimately, for me, the sheer scale of the unique cultural ecosystem, the dedicated genres of art, the specialized consumables, the visual and auditory environment that dominates a full month is simply unmatched by any other holiday. It consumes society, therefore it is the most important holiday, and the scope of that culture is the ultimate testament to its status.
And I maintain that the true substance of the holiday's importance lies in its fundamental function. It is important because of its initial role as a key religious observance, and critically, because it serves as the most significant time for focused, high-level family convergence and ritual, especially centered on that deeply valued, specific morning ritual of December 25th. The culture is simply the necessary machinery that ensures this core function is upheld and celebrated annually.
Well, the material clearly illuminates how these two forces, the cultural saturation and the fundamental function, interact and, sometimes compete to establish the holiday's central singular status in the U.S.
Indeed. The complexity of Christmas means that both its deeply felt traditional purpose and its broad, pervasive societal reach draw substantial, credible evidence from the material when we're discussing why it holds the position of the most important holiday. It's a structure built for both belief and ubiquity.